Okay, now we have a few things working better with this old girl. We're going to take it for a bit of a test run, a longer test run than I've really ever done before on it, because I've never thought it's going to be really reliable. Hey, well, hi guys, welcome to another episode of TJM, the Jagman. Well, I've pulled out the Red Series 2 that I've owned for nearly 12 months that we've been just playing with. That I sort of rescued. It was going to the wreckers for sure. But after doing some research on it and going over it a bit, we found out that the engine is really quite sound and underneath is strong, and it's been a pretty good car. I don't know why I'm so affectionate about this old girl, because she's not worth anything, but I just didn't want to wreck it or let it go to the wreckers, and it drives so nicely. So the last couple of months, even though it's been sitting in the garage, I've been pulling it out and just doing little bits and pieces to it. I've patched up those rusts. Remember, if you saw my videos, we took off those ugly, which I hate, chrome wheel spats. And a lot of rust had built up underneath them because they just hold bloody dirt and moisture under them. So I've actually patched both of those wheel arches. I've only bogged them, I've cut all the rust out of them, and I've just filled them up and got them back. And they'll last probably 10 years before rust will come back into that again. And, you know, if it's keeping this thing on the road, well, I think it's such a good thing. And it's not worth cutting out and putting welded panels in there. I just can't afford to do it and don't have the time to do it, and it's going to over-capitalise on the car. So we've done a bit of that, and she's starting to come up really well. It's driving excellent. So today we're just going to, none of the fuel gauges work, and I don't want to drive this thing too much while it doesn't have any fuel gauges on it. I've got the oil gauge and temperature gauge to work, and the windows to work, and a few other things. Well, I've never been able to get the fuel gauge to work on this old girl. Even if you short the wires back out on the tank, the fuel gauge doesn't work. So I've looked up Bradley's book, and it's pretty simple. This light green with orange tracing goes to the fuel gauge, and white is hot with the ignition on. So what we're going to do is just eliminate whether it's a fuel gauge on the dash, or is it this changeover switch, which I've got out. And I've given it a spray with some contact cleaner. You can pull them apart. I'm going to just see if it works without doing that, because if they're a bit fiddly, there's quite a few little pieces that just pop out of it when you open it up. So we'll put it back. We'll just check to see if this fuel gauge works first. Okay, I've got my wire hooked up between the hot wire and the one that's going to the gauge. And do we have movement? No movement. Have I got it on the right one? Well, it took a while, but I think it's moving. Very slowly. Probably hasn't been used for so many years. So that's moving, going up very slow. So we know that fuel gauge is okay. So we'll put the switch back together and see if we can short it out at the back again and see if that gauge goes up like it is going up now. That's good. Okay, I've just gone back to the tank sender, and I've joined the wire that's leading from the changeover switch, and we just hooked it up to an earth, and let's see if our gauge is moving. Ignition is on, and can we see that in that reflection of that light there? I can't see that. Let me get there. God. Yep, we're full. So now the gauge is working via the switch. We'll pull the sender apart and see if that's working. We'll pull the sender out and see if that's actually doing its job. Okay, before we pull it out, just let's see if it does work. I'll turn the ignition on again, and I don't know how much fuel's in this. I really doubt if that old sender's going to be working. It takes a bit of a while to start moving again. It doesn't seem to be wanting to move at all. It's just going backwards. Backwards, 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 backwards. Well, it's a bit sad looking, so I might have to get a new one. But we might clean it out and give it a try, see if we can get it going. Okay, my new fuel sender has arrived from Jaguar. pretty nifty. It's a right hand one. And they've gone up in price though. It used to be 90 bucks, this was 120 in 12 months. And one came with a rubber, this one doesn't come with a new seal. I'll have to get on to Jeff about that. One for the Series 3 and I put it in it, but the package came with a new rubber and a new lock ring. So I've probably got to find another rubber because I don't think this rubber's any good in this one. The old rubber's not too bad, it's still nice and flexible, it'll do. It won't leak. Just cleaned up the surface a bit and I've sprayed some lithium grease on there. And that'll be good, that'll hold the rubber in place a little bit while we put the lock ring on. So we'll get that going. Okay, it's in. I end up using the old lock ring because it was still okay. And I did find a rubber in the box that was hiding. But they'll go in the box as spares. They'll be handy for something else, or we might upgrade it later and put them in. But that's not going to leak. Let's see if the fuel gauge works. Okay, left tank on. Ignition on. Fuel pump's working. You can hear that pumping. Oh yes, look at that. We have a fuel gauge that works. Hooroo! Probably hasn't worked for 10, 15 years. Now it's going, it's all good. Another job done. Here's something I thought was interesting. I was lying in bed the other night and having to think about it. When we first bought this car, the changeover tank valve was on the right-hand tank. And if you remember from my last videos, one of my earlier videos, when we inspected this tank, it had a leak in it and it was bone dry, and it'd been bone dry for years. And also back on that same video, remember I took the tops of the bowls of the carburetor floats off, and I was expecting them to be cruddy with dirty fuel and revolting. They were both as clean as a whistle and they didn't have a drop of fuel in them. So I'm suspecting that this thing ran out of fuel. Whoever drove it last had the wrong tank switched over. They've driven it into a position and it hasn't been started since, because the left tank was absolutely full of fuel. So it's probably actually saved me a lot of work not having to clean those carbies out, because they just ran them dry. Driving this car and other people driving it that just really didn't realise that the right tank didn't work. Okay, now we have a few things working better with this old girl. We're going to take it for a bit of a test run, a longer test run than I've really ever done before on it, because I've never thought it's going to be really reliable. But she's getting better and better. I really actually don't know why I'm a bit obsessed with this old girl. Maybe because when I got it, it wasn't running at all, and we've got it going to a pretty good state. I know she's still looking pretty sad with the rust, with the body filler and things, but I'm sort of liking the fact that it doesn't owe me anything and we can just spend a bit of money on it and get it right. It drives really, really nice. There's no real movement in the front suspension. It's no knocks or rattles. I think the front shockies might be a little bit tired, but I've got a couple of pairs of them. We can just change them later. Yeah, compared to the that Lavender Series 2 that I've just bought recently in the short wheelbase, there's not much difference in their driving. They feel pretty much similar. They're someone's ringing me. Got plenty of torque, plough up the hill. We've got to get it sorted so I can get it down to Sydney for a proper roadworthy. But she's a really nice car to drive. Steering's direct. I've got no noises in the diff or gearbox. Gearbox changes well. She does run on a little bit after switching it off when she gets a bit warm. But I've been driving it around now for the last 20 minutes and she doesn't overheat. Temperature stays really right in the middle of the normal. I can't complain about that. Yeah, no, I can hear a few cowbells in the back, but that's nothing, we can fix them. They're the vents that vent through the boot. I'm certainly not going to keep it. I'll just finish the paint on it and maybe sell it for a few grand. Nice cruiser, good entry level. Just going up my test hill. I just had this thing running for over half an hour around the block, and it goes really well. It doesn't overheat, it makes no ugly noises. I find it's idling a little bit too fast. I think it may have a vacuum leak, or carburetors need a little bit more work. We'll get stuck into them. But I thought I'd just give you an update of the old Series 2, which I've got some sort of attachment to this old girl. I don't know why, maybe because it's signal red. But we'll keep working on it. So next video of this car will probably be when we put some paint on it. If that'll ever happen, I'm sure it will. So thanks guys for watching. If you like the video, just give it a thumbs up. It's only a short one, and if you haven't told your mates, you can do that. And if you want to leave a message, I love hearing from you guys, and we'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.